A few years back, I reviewed this BRG 9 Elite made by Burger Metal and imported by Buffalo Cartridge, and was really impressed with it. It's a heavily XD inspired gun, you could say, but they changed some things up, did some interesting design improvements and material improvements to make it sort of the unkillable version of it. The traction was a little loose, it wasn't red dot ready, but it was otherwise a spectacular gun. Unfortunately, YouTube has deleted that video for whatever reason. So I can't reference it. They're destroying history on things like this, but that's why I have my site, and that's also why we're over on Rumble, where things should hopefully be a little bit safer and a little less censorship going on. Anyways, the Gen 2 was shown at SHOT Show a couple years ago and then disappeared. And thanks to a viewer, I learned of who's importing them and where to get these things now. And as you can already see from just this first glance, a lot has been updated to it. Tabletop review on field strip of the BRG 9 Elite Gen 2 coming up next on opening up the box to this very nice kit. You're greeted with this card, which basically tells you that you can download the manual online. Now, I prefer to have a paper copy to keep with all the stuff, but I also understand why companies do this, because that cuts down on cost, which ultimately can be passed on to the consumer. They're not printing the things. It's also cheaper for, or it also enables editing and changes, so should there be evolutions to the product or rolling changes, things like that along the line. We have the pistol with a magazine in it. We have 2 additional back straps. We've got our lock, 4 different optics plates. These are, unfortunately, polymer and have a little bit of flex to them. Is that going to be a problem or not? That depends on you and your use. I'd say if you're going to use the gun really hard, stick with irons. Up top, an additional magazine and magazine loader, and then in this cute little pouch that is semi-M81, it kind of reminds me of some of the slightly east, slightly southern camos of the era. We've got a bottle of oil that is filled, actual oil in it, our mop or burr brush, a cleaning wipe, a punch tool that is steel, as well as this doohickey. I'm not entirely sure what that is used for. It looks like, I don't know, let me hear your guesses. I'm sure it's in the manual. I have not downloaded the manual, so I don't have it. However, the important thing about ammunition I already know the answer to, and that is, this is ready for CIP, which means it's ready for NATO, which means it's ready for plus P ammunition. Now with this barrel length, you do not need plus P. I think it's unnecessary, but I know some folks want to ask, so I do my best to give you that answer. Let's get this stuff out of the way and take a look at the gun. I want to give you a quick surface level look at some of the changes. You can see that we've got deeper, more aggressive slide serration cuts. They've added a slot of Pic Rail to it. They've changed the texture quite a bit. This is the really grippy, modern texture stuff, and you see it's even up here along the side for your reference points when you drop your fingers. The back straps have more texture. The magazine now has this base plate, and it is an ambi magazine release, and this is an 18-round magazine versus the original was, I believe, a 16. Yes, 16. Is the stock longer? No. Does the 16-rounder fit in the 18? Pinch my finger, but yes, and it locks open. So, interesting blend there. It doesn't quite kick out as smoothly, but that might just be that it's an older magazine. Those are the major changes. You can see the sights have remained the same. We still have a striker status indicator in the back. We still have an orange front sight, but we now also have optics ready, at the expense of losing the physical loaded chamber indicator, which, depending on who you are, is a good thing or a bad thing. The trigger feels a little bit heavier, but that may also be that this is a worn, reviewed gun, and this is a brand new out-of-the-box gun. Is it going to affect performance at all? We'll find out on the range. I might bring them both out and do some A/B side testing, or maybe make a separate video out of that. Let me know if you guys want to hear that. Now that we know what's different, if you aren't familiar with the BRG 9 Elite at all, let's get into the regular tabletop review. Start locking the slide to the rear. Had a little bit of slickness there. That could be oil on my fingers from handling a brand new gun. Could be the Cerakote adding a little bit of slick. We'll see. I had ordered the bronze gun. They were unfortunately out of it, and I ended up with the FDE instead, just because I have a lot of black guns. I actually have no affinity whatsoever for the too much milk in my coffee color that took everyone's hearts for so many years. I'm kind of tired of it. Do we get magazine release or ejection? Definite ejection. Look at that, it kicks out. And the magazine release, it is ambidextrous and works about the same from either side. Might be slightly stiffer from the right, as we've come to expect on a lot of ambi-mag release guns. The magazine release itself is rather sheltered. You see it doesn't really stick out too far from the frame, so I don't think we'll have the classic issue of folks saying their holster activates their magazine release or that they bump into something while the gun's holstered. I think proper holster design should be able to help you avoid that as well. We'll try the ambi slide release. Definitely works and locks. That is one of the easiest ambi slide releases that I've encountered. Those of you who train left-handed or are left-handed have probably experienced that the addition of an ambi release tends to mean there's some type of weak metal and you end up with play between the two. You'll see when we field strip this gun is beef. It is built strong. Slide to frame fit. We got the normal play that is not an issue. Your sights are moving with that. So even if the gun settles down slightly differently after each shot, you're also settling down after each shot. So I'm not too worried about it. Barrel protrudes a wee bit from the slide. We have a little bit of the bowl cut leading into these side cuts, which are reasonably deep. I'm trying to shift it around to get the light to hit it differently so you can see the depth on there. A little bit of slickness though, just from the Cerakote. These three pick slots look awfully narrow and awfully close together. Let's try. Come on. Good news and bad news about these slightly short-looking Pic Rail slots. If you've got an Olight PL2, it fits just fine. If you've got a TLR1HL, it does not fit. A SIG Foxtrot 2 does not fit. A SIG Foxtrot 2R does not fit. And a SIG Foxtrot 1X does not fit. So, I wonder if they set their specs off of an Olight, which would be kind of entertaining. However, this being a budget gun, I would suspect you might also be more interested in a budget light. I didn't have any problems with my Valkyrie. It's still got charge, still good. I just get different lights to try different sizes and fits. This locked into the first rail just fine. I would need to make some adjustments to be able to put it in the second rail, but on the first rail, it fits. Would look a bit like that, stick out quite a bit, give a room for finger reach. Lock that down. My fingers can still hit it very easily, but a nice thing about it sticking forward like that is we're not going to get as much carbon on the lens. So for all of you looking for either home defense or for the YouTuber trick of mounting a heavy light on the nose of your gun so your shots look smoother, that's your option. Continuing under the gun, we do have texture as well as a hook on the front of the trigger guard for those who like to do the support finger hook over there. Nice, decent undercut. It kind of swells a little in the middle. It's not perfectly concave, but it works, and this aggressive texture is probably going to be your biggest fight. As I've mentioned on other guns that are using this new, more aggressive micro fissure, it does really help you hold on. It can also get a little bit in the way of your draw, especially if you're a gloved hand shooter, but I shoot with naked hands, so shouldn't be a problem. Looking underneath, we have a beveling to our magwell, as well as the nice tail to be able to slam the back of the mag on and index on the way in the gun. Makes it pretty easy. It's a technique I recommend. I also like that because there are finger bumps, they're small enough that it's not shifting my hand, and so I'm able to insert a magazine without risking pinching that pinky. And because the back strap hangs down below the frame just a touch, it also helps prevent pinching back there. So thank you for that. We do have a grip safety. For those that fear grip safeties, either learn to hold your gun or don't worry too much on this one. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to deactivate. Let's see if I can Oh, that time it did. I swear to you, when I was playing with it earlier, I only had to put a little bit of pressure. Maybe I was reaching higher up in order for it to not be an issue. But it is a nice additional safety. You notice how beefy these pins are, and that the serial number is underneath there on the chassis. That almost suggests that this could be a chassis gun. However, the serial number is also on the frame, also on the barrel. That's a Turkish law thing. I think that this was possibly could have been a chassis system gun, but for domestic production purposes in Turkey, they had to serialize it all. Even the slides got it. You saw in the back that we do have a striker indicator. This also shows us if it's a fully cocked or a partially pre-cocked striker. See if it moves at all as I pull the trigger. Nope, it did not protrude at all. So we have a fully pre-cocked gun. And coming around the right side of the gun, you can see our controls again. Sight picture with the white rear and orange front, as well as our optics option. Now with it using a plate and these low height sights, you're probably going to lose co-witness, but it's going to depend on the optic. Next we'll field strip the BRG 9 Elite Gen 2 and take a look inside the gun. And as we do this, man, I wish YouTube wasn't deleting history and information, because there was some great information that I got from the manufacturer and importer at the time about all the specs, like the materials used and things that are part of what made it such a beefy gun. They're in that video. Once I made that video, I figured my notes were recorded and safe. I don't have those notes anymore. They might still be in the article if I have an article up. I don't know if the depot was live back then or not. I'll take a look. If not, someone can. And hopefully you'll find a Graham Bates BRG 9 Elite article somewhere on the web that explains all that. Anyways, to field strip, we need to lock the slide to the rear. That gives us a chance to check for clear. It also would eject something if it was in the chamber. Now we're going to rotate the takedown lever down. Take the slide right off. No need to touch the trigger on that, which was nice. And as I recall, it was 4340, not 4140 steel that was used. And you notice the rails are a little bit bigger and thicker than the norm. That was all part of the beef. And it does sure look like it's a chassis system in there. There's a nice thick, that's part of why our ambi slide release lever works so nicely. There's no play there. That is a big piece of metal. Curious bar in there. It doesn't move. Interesting, only on one side. Don't know to say what that is. You can see we have a dual recoil spring assembly, which I like. These tend to make for softer shooting guns that are still easier to rack. Knock the barrel down, forward and out, and we can take a look inside of our slide. Very clean there. You can see our trigger, our drop safety in there, external extractor as well. All nicely done. And now we'll check for chamber fitment. I'm going to check for chamber fitment using some Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. This nickel plating is corrosion resistance. Great for carry ammo, also great for an round you're going to handle a lot. And the camera will cooperate with us. You'll see we've got nice chamfering all the way around. That should aid in reliability when we get to what's for dinner. Drop this in, listen for a plunk, like that. See if it can spin freely, and it does. And also looking to see how much of the brass beyond that shoulder is protruding, and you can see this is a little bit of a shorter chamber. I have about the, well, it's even all the way around. It's a nice thing. There isn't a smiley face spot underneath for weakness. And that is the strongest part of the brass, but it's definitely a shallower chamber than one might expect. 9mm index is off of the case, not off of the bullet, so that won't affect our ability to run different loads of ammunition. It's just interesting that it's short, but I will call this a fully supported chamber, even though it's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit less supported. If you're concerned about it, watch the range video, because in that, among other things, I'll run at least 11 different loads through this and see what the gun likes. Speaking of which, as I reassemble this, I'll tell you about what you'll see in the shooting impressions video. My absolute first shots to the gun. No warm-ups, not cherry-picking footage. That real first impression, just like any of you would have if you bought this. What might your first thoughts be? That's why I do that on camera. Full magazine plus one, see how the gun runs fully stuffed. The trademark what's for dinner table to see what the gun will eat. That's where those 10 extra loads come in. Then took it over to the spinner for sights and trigger control to see how well I can time a well-placed shot. Then over to practical accuracy, 5 shots from 7 yards on a 1-inch square to see what kind of accuracy I can get out of it and wrap up my thoughts for the after shots, which are my concluding thoughts on the gun after having reviewed nearly 500 handguns. At some point I need to count that again because I'm going to get over 500 and miss it. But yeah, reviewed quite a few. As always, for full specs, more information, where to find all these things, check the pinned comment. That's where you'll find that. Thank you guys for a decade of support, and we'll see you on the range.
Thank you to our Patreon supporters. GBGuns and not due to level. Derek S. Jr., Joseph T. Al G. Peter A. Tom Scott King. Rodley Rich. Moises S. Fast Eddie. Talatron 1-5 Marvin T. David F. Donald H. Jenna I. Greg K. Thanks for the tip, lover. Be happy to Christopher J. David B. Andrew B. Gordley H. J.S. Foreign N. Brett Fawns, Michael W. David G. Robert B. Ohio. Swarthmore, Briscoe County Jar. Brian K. Red Sky. Waha Edward C. Alan B. Pierce 7-6. Tap to Johnny Uncle Munzie. Mrs. Doodle Punk, Mount Stewart E. Justin H.